Red Bull Racing faces a genuine threat of losing Max Verstappen before this 2026 season ends. A specific performance-linked exit clause in his contract has already been officially triggered. He sat roughly 6th in the Drivers' Championship at the summer break. That placed him approximately 11 points behind current leader Kimi Antonelli. This is not a hypothetical negotiation or a distant future worry. It is an active contractual mechanism that flipped from dormant to live. The resulting exit window runs right now through October 2026. This threatens to dismantle the most dominant driver-team partnership in modern Formula One history. The team's competitive identity hinges entirely on retaining their star driver. He has already met the precise numeric condition required to walk away. Red Bull currently holds zero guaranteed leverage if they cannot reverse this momentum shift. The most unsettling part of this crisis is not the clause itself. Nobody in the paddock can fully agree on why the RB22 failed to prevent it. German outlet Bild reported that Red Bull tabled a one-year extension to 2029. They claimed it included a higher salary and removed all exit clauses. Jos Verstappen publicly dismissed those exact rumors on X in early August 2026. He responded to the report by writing, "You know absolutely nothing." We are left with a direct contradiction between insider claims and public denials. So, which version of reality is actually true right now? Why does this gap matter for a team without a single win through 11 Grands Prix? This winless streak is the first Red Bull has endured since 2015. Verstappen was still racing for Toro Rosso back then. He has managed only 4 podiums and 109 points through 11 rounds. That tally looks catastrophic against the championship lead held by Kimi Antonelli. These numbers tell a story of systemic failure rather than bad luck. This drought coincides exactly with the massive 2026 rules overhaul. Verstappen's camp had long-standing apprehension about this new package from the start. They inserted this escape hatch because they feared the new formula. They worried the new power unit and chassis would not win immediately. That fear has materialized in the most painful way possible. Theoretical contract language has become an immediate operational emergency. The exit clause was added specifically due to concerns about drivability. Those concerns have been validated weekend after weekend this year. The RB22 struggles with inconsistent balance and an underperforming Ford power unit. The trigger was not based on subjective assessments of car potential. It relied on a hard championship position checkpoint that Verstappen missed. The conversation has shifted from desire to legal obligation. Can Red Bull keep him if they fail to win before October? The on-track reality driving this contractual crisis is brutal and unrelenting. Verstappen has repeatedly called the RB22 undriveable across multiple 2026 race weekends. His team radio complaints have been explicit and damning. He told his engineers, "The car's undriveable." We never had anything this bad with everything together. This is not standard driver frustration after a difficult session. It represents a fundamental breakdown in the relationship between driver and machine. The car simply does not respond to inputs as expected. Every correction creates a new problem elsewhere. Trust evaporates when feedback loops fail this completely. His criticism goes far beyond generic handling complaints. Verstappen identified a specific technical failure mode that traditional setup changes cannot fix. He stated clearly, "We don't have tire degradation, we have car degradation." Neither car, tire wear is a manageable variable in modern Formula One. Teams model it, strategize around it, and adapt to it lap by lap. Car degradation is something entirely different. It means the chassis itself loses performance independently of consumables. Balance shifts unpredictably as fuel loads change or aerodynamic surfaces stall. No amount of pit strategy can compensate for a platform that deteriorates beneath the driver. This distinction matters enormously for development priorities. Fixing tires takes minutes. Fixing fundamental aeromechanical instability takes months. Have you ever tried to extract maximum performance from a vehicle that actively resists your inputs? Verstappen described his experience in terms that sound more like endurance survival than elite motorsport. He said, "I can't even put a bit of a reference in, every lap is like survival. References are the foundation of fast driving. Breakpoints, turn-in markers, apex speeds, and traction zones all require consistency. When those references shift every single lap, muscle memory becomes useless. Cognitive load skyrockets as the brain processes novel information continuously. Fatigue accumulates faster when nothing is predictable." He added that he cannot push at all because the car doesn't let him. Every lap is honestly survival for him. That admission from a 4-time world champion should alarm everyone at Red Bull. This isn't isolated to one circuit or condition. From lap 1 of the new 2026 regulation, he has not enjoyed this car. Safety concerns have now entered the conversation alongside performance deficits. Rear-wing failures during Hungary qualifying created what Verstappen called situations becoming dangerous for himself. Mechanical reliability issues compound drivability problems exponentially. A driver already fighting an unpredictable balance must also worry about structural integrity. Confidence erodes on multiple fronts simultaneously. Recovery drives become heroic rather than routine. His second-place finish in Hungary, despite these issues, demonstrates extraordinary racecraft. But heroics are not sustainable development strategies. They mask underlying deficiencies rather than solving them. So where does that leave us regarding the root cause? The RB22's problems trace directly back to the 2026 power unit transition. Red Bull split from Honda after 2025 to pursue independence. Their new in-house Red Bull powertrains operation partnered with Ford for this era. That partnership has repeatedly underperformed relative to rivals throughout 2026 coverage. Power delivery characteristics affect chassis balance profoundly. Torque curves that don't match aerodynamic expectations create exactly the kind of inconsistency Verstappen describes. Energy deployment timing influences braking stability and traction zones. When the power unit behaves unpredictably, the entire car feels undriveable regardless of mechanical grip levels. This integration challenge was precisely what his camp feared when negotiating the original exit clause. They anticipated that mastering both new regulations simultaneously would prove difficult. Current results validate those pre-season concerns completely. Technical Director Pierre Wache maintains public confidence in the development program. He targets winning a race before season's end as proof of progress, but development timelines operate independently of contractual deadlines. Engineering solutions require testing, validation, and manufacturing cycles. October arrives whether the upgrades work or not. The gap between aspirational targets and legal realities grows narrower each weekend. Verstappen's manager Raymond Vermeulen insists his client wants to fulfill his 2028 contract. Yet wanting and being able to stay are separate questions when exit conditions activate. The winless streak isn't just embarrassing statistically. It's contractually consequential in ways previous droughts never were. The narrative took a sharp and confusing turn in early August 2026. German outlet Bild published a specific claim about contract negotiations. They reported Red Bull offered Verstappen a one-year extension through 2029. The alleged deal included a higher salary and completely removed all exit clauses. This story suggested the team was aggressively trying to lock down their star driver. It implied mutual commitment despite the on-track struggles. Paddock observers began analyzing what this meant for market movement. Then, Jos Verstappen intervened directly on social media platform X. He responded to posts about the rumored extension with 5 words: "You know absolutely nothing." That dismissal was absolute and immediate. No nuance existed in his public rebuttal. Denials rarely carry such definitive finality. This creates a genuine information vacuum at the worst possible moment. We cannot confirm whether Bild's report was entirely fabricated or merely premature. Perhaps negotiations occurred, but terms were misrepresented publicly. Maybe discussions happened internally without reaching formal offer stage. Or possibly the entire story originated from sources outside actual decision-making circles. What we know for certain is that Max Verstappen has not accepted any new offer as of early August 2026. His silence on positive development speaks volumes alongside his father's vocal negation. Contract talks typically remain private until signed. Public contradictions suggest either miscommunication or deliberate messaging strategy. Neither scenario inspires confidence during a championship crisis. Why would Jos Verstappen choose such a confrontational tone? Fathers managing elite athletes often protect negotiation leverage through ambiguity. Flat denials preserve optionality better than nuanced clarifications. Saying nothing leaves room for future flexibility. Admitting partial truth might constrain later bargaining positions. Yet this approach also fuels uncertainty when stability matters most. Team personnel need clarity to plan resource allocation. Sponsors require assurance before committing marketing budgets. Media narratives shape fan perception and commercial value. When key stakeholders receive conflicting signals, trust erodes incrementally. The gap between reported offers and public denials widens speculation rather than closing it. Remember how this all started, with that performance-linked exit clause triggering because Verstappen sat 6th in the standings. That contractual mechanism remains active regardless of extension rumors. Whether Red Bull actually offered 2029 terms changes nothing about current legal realities. The October deadline approaches independently of negotiation theater. External reporting cannot override signed agreements. Only mutual consent can modify existing contracts. Until both parties confirm new terms publicly, the original exit window stays open. This distinction between rumor and enforceable obligation matters enormously. Market participants must distinguish noise from signal carefully. So what does this contradiction reveal about Red Bull's internal state? Organizations facing crises often leak optimistic stories to stabilize perceptions. Positive headlines can buy time for technical solutions. They reassure partners while engineers work behind closed doors. But when those stories get publicly contradicted by principal stakeholders, credibility suffers doubly. First comes the underlying problem itself. Then comes the failed attempt to manage its narrative. Two failures compound into systemic concern. Observers begin questioning organizational coherence beyond just car performance. Communication breakdowns rarely exist in isolation. They reflect deeper coordination challenges across departments. Verstappen's own statements continue emphasizing dissatisfaction over loyalty. He refuses to commit publicly to staying past 2026 despite manager Vermeulen's assurances. That personal silence contrasts sharply with representative optimism. Drivers typically align messaging with management during stable periods. Divergent suggests unresolved tensions beneath surface professionalism. Perhaps Vermeulen expresses genuine preference while Verstappen maintains strategic ambiguity. Or maybe family communication channels operate separately from official representation. Either way, external observers face incomplete information. The Bild report and Jos Verstappen's ex-post represent opposing poles. Truth likely resides somewhere between them. But pinpointing exact coordinates proves impossible without insider access. This uncertainty itself becomes part of Red Bull's competitive disadvantage. Rivals exploit doubt more effectively than confirmed facts. The foundation of this entire contractual crisis lies in the 2026 regulations overhaul itself. Verstappen's camp insisted on that exit clause specifically because they feared how the new package would drive. That long-standing apprehension has now been fully validated by 11 races of evidence. The new formula introduced a lighter and more agile chassis philosophy alongside a completely revised power unit. Mastering one revolution is difficult enough for any factory team. Attempting both simultaneously while building an engine operation from scratch was always a massive gamble. Red Bull split from Honda after 2025 to pursue independence through Red Bull powertrains. That strategic bet has not paid dividends during this critical transition period. Ford's involvement as a technical partner has repeatedly underperformed relative to rival manufacturers throughout 2026. Energy deployment characteristics directly influence chassis balance and drivability. When torque curves do not match aerodynamic expectations, drivers experience exactly the inconsistency Verstappen describes as car degradation. Competitors with established infrastructure adapted faster to these integration challenges. Development cycles for core powertrain components span months rather than weeks. Quick fixes cannot address fundamental architectural mismatches mid-season. This technical deficit compounds every weekend when straight-line speed or traction zone performance falters against Mercedes or McLaren.